I'm Kit Cassingham with Live in Focused Energy. I'm here with Don Downs, the RV business coach. Don, tell people what that means, please.
Sure. At RV Business Coach, I help people figure out how to live the remote life. Most common method is by creating a fun, profitable, entrepreneurial business that's completely location independent, so they can live anywhere they want and work anywhere they want. So yeah, that's pretty much the primary basis of where we are right now.
That's pretty cool. Sounds like fun.
It is.
For you and them.
Yes, for
Good.
both.
Okay.
Especially those who like to live in an RV.
I guess that would be part of it. Yeah.
Not all, but part, yeah.
Definite. Yeah. Yeah. And I am a longevity coach. I love working with people who want to live with intention. And I love helping people make their lives better. So I base it on when you argue for your limitations, they're yours. And when we work together, you're going to be supported and challenged as you learn to change your thinking and your actions so you can live a life of possibility. And I'd like to see that be a long, healthy life. Longevity, in my definition, is it's a recipe of equal parts of lifespan and health span and joy. Dr. W, who are you?
I'm Corey. I'm an environmental consultant. Just here for the interesting conversation and learning.
Well, good. We expect it to be interesting and lively and participatory if you would like.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't like, we'd still like it. So. So our topic today is surviving the holidays. What do we want to say about that? So I guess the first question is, where does stress come from for you around surviving the holidays or around the holidays in general? Don, Corey, what'd you think?
Well, I think it comes from a lot of places. Root cause probably is just having too high of expectations for the holidays and therefore putting ourselves under a lot of pressure. A lot of things we typically worry about when we're going to get together with family over the holidays. And depending on family relationships, that can be very stressful or it can be very fun. Part of the, getting together with family means travel, whether it means driving on the interstate or flying on an airplane. That can be very stressful. And a lot of times we end up putting ourselves under big financial stress, because we didn't plan early enough and the air flights are outrageous, or, we want to do too much for Christmas beyond our budget. But all of those kind of too many gifts, too big of gifts. But all of those kind of roll back into our expectations are just too high. We're putting too much pressure on ourselves. To do stuff. And, and part of it too, I think, as you gave the introduction, I was like, we kind of maybe are looking at this wrong, right? We're looking at how to survive the holidays. We should be talking about how do we thrive during the holidays.
Good point. Good catch. I'll put that in the comments on YouTube. Yeah, because we don't want to survive. We want to have a good time. We want to enjoy ourselves, our lives, our friends and family. The bell ringer around the corner. We'd like to be able to enjoy them too.
Right. Without putting ourselves under so much pressure to enjoy it that we prevent ourselves from enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah. So Corey, what about you? Do you have stress around holidays?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think Don nailed it. I think it's that combination of, expectations and also the financial burden of wanting or needing to travel, feeling like it's maybe expected to travel. And, it's not only your own expectations, but worrying about the expectations of others and meeting those.
Okay. I grew up in a house where my mother especially, but dad also, loved the holidays. Christmas music started on Thanksgiving Day, and they'd have a stack of records on the spindle. Boy, I'm aging myself.
I remember those days.
And and music just played all the time. And there were some pieces my dad loved so much, he would stop what he was doing just to go be by the stereo and listen. Pavarotti's voice just sent shivers down his spine.
Well, he called it a hi-fi.
When we lit, oh well, fine. When we lived in Oklahoma, we had one tree. When we moved to Colorado, back to Colorado, we had a tree in the living room, dining room area that you could see through the front windows. And then we had the one downstairs where we put the gifts and gathered Christmas morning. And Mom had so much fun. She was a very creative woman, and she decorated to the hilt. She she just had lots and lots of decorations on the tree, garlands everywhere, bells, and it went on and on. When the family divided up her ornaments, we all came away with a lot ourselves. And there are 5 kids in the family, so when I say we all came up with a lot, but and I don't think she was stressed by that because she seemed to just love it so much. So maybe that's part of it. Love the holidays and all that you're doing, and only sign up for what you love. And then I
I think
married
that's
my
a great
husband.
point. Go ahead.
Well, it helps. Yeah. So Randy has been an EMT. Well, he started right out of high school. And his enjoyment of the holidays was crushed when he was an EMT at a bad car accident where young people were killed, and it wasn't a pretty scene, and that just kind of ruined the holidays for him. I've gone from decorating a tree, then I bought those pencil trees that are anywhere from 2 to 4 feet high, and I would decorate them. One year I left them up all year, and I just changed the decorations every so often. But when we moved over here to Ridgeway, I quit decorating. I didn't enjoy being the one to put it all up and take it all down. And we didn't celebrate Christmas, so I kind of got to the point of why bother? Yet with that, I still love the holidays because of the spirit of giving and joy that I'd like to see permeate more, but I think it does a pretty good job.
Yeah,
So
I think you made an
how
interesting point about the kind of the expectation and the mindset, like the decorating. We have a friend who starts in September putting out the Christmas decorations because she's got all of these little houses and ornaments and stuff and just covers the house with it. And then after Christmas starts taking him down, and it's taking him down through March. To me, that just sounds like entirely too much work.
Yeah.
But she loves it, and has party after party after party during Christmas so people can come see all the decorations that they put up and share it. And for her, it's a great, exciting thing, so I think a lot of it is just what we put on ourselves in that regard. For me to try to do that would be disastrous. For her to do it is a wonderful thing.
Right. When I was a bed and breakfast innkeeper, I had a mother and son come to spend time with us over I think it was over Christmas. And we started doing Thanksgiving turkey dinners, both at Thanksgiving and Christmas, for the travelers who are with us. And we learned over that meal that she needed to get out of her house because she'd recently lost her husband, and she thought a different environment. And we didn't decorate a lot, but we did a little bit. But she was with happy people, away from home, and that gave holidays and celebrations a whole new meaning. And I appreciated that. And it reminded me of Mom, who would invite the people who were new to town, who didn't have their friend base yet. She would invite them for holiday meals, and it was a lot more fun. At least for me. I don't know how any of my other family felt about it, but I loved it. And it's all about me, so who cares? Right?
Yeah.
Well, and sorry, I've been talking a lot about family. I think family can be a lot of the stress of the holidays. Corey, do you have family that stresses you out for holidays, or are you one of the lucky ones?
I mean, so I guess it's the difference between my in-laws and my family, because both are family. I don't feel a whole lot of expectation from my family in terms of whether I need to come or not, what's expected gift wise or travel wise or whatever, just because there's more of an understanding there. I think with my in-laws, it's a little bit stressful. There definitely is an expectation and a level of participation that they are going to want. And so
yeah.
that adds some to it. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. How about you, Don?
Yeah, I think, we have some family traditions that involve expectations around travel that can sometimes be stressful. And, this year we're breaking them just because of the work schedules for me and for my son are not lining up with the traditional things. And so, fortunately, everyone seems to be rolling with it pretty well. But, most years, yeah, we feel a lot of pressure that, we're supposed to all get together and we're supposed to have this particular meal. And, as mom's aged, it's gotten harder and harder for her to make the traditional meal that she wants of, the things that she has always made. And so, as we've had to do some adapting, really more her than the rest of us to give up some of that and say, okay, I'm not going to make all of the normal stuff. And, we'll have to scale it back a little bit.
So Don, I knew my mom had stepped into the old bracket when she said, I don't have the energy to cook the meal I always cook. So you guys are going to bring it. They still smoked the turkey, but we brought all the sides and treasures. And of course, we brought our favorites. So it was still the meal, but mom wasn't wiped out in doing the preparation or the cleanup. So that was kind of fun.
And that's
so
good when you can make those adjustments.
Well, she had
it took
to
us a
make
while
it
to
on
get
her
to
own.
there.
Yeah. So we've morphed from family to food. We've got the F's going here, but food can be stressful in all kinds of ways. My sister used to get stressed out because her mother-in-law expected her to eat everything that her mother-in-law cooked. And my sister didn't want to do that. That wasn't the way she liked to eat. And I don't actually know how she resolved it, but I didn't hear about it as much. So
it must have gotten resolved some way then.
It must have, or my sister just got used to putting. No, this is a trick my husband used, and maybe my sister used it too. He would have a napkin in his lap, and when his dad wasn't looking, he'd scrape the food into his lap, and then go into the kitchen to get more food, dumping the napkin, paper napkin. And his dad, of course, was smart enough to know what was going on.
Good try, though.
Yeah, mom loved Brussels sprouts, for example, and I just like, you like these things? So she came up with a cashew butter sauce. And I learned that one Brussels sprout and 3 cashews with a healthy serving of melted butter was pretty good. Now I just like Brussels sprouts for themselves, and I forget that don't do the butter and the cashews. I was thinking of something else about. Let me look at my notes. Oh, open lines of communication. I guess the better your relationship is with the people you're doing holidays with, the easier this is. But what about sharing your preference, your needs for how the holiday goes? Food, gifts, timing, whatever.
That's always a tricky one, because I think everyone agrees open lines of communications are good, but then a lot of times we're afraid to try to open those lines because of what our perceived expectations of the other people. So even, we want to open the lines of communication, but we're afraid to propose opening the lines of communication because we think it won't be received well by the person.
And you'll be rejected. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I just go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, I had an experience with that just recently. I'm participating in a program called Wild Fit, where they're teaching us to have a different relationship with our food. By American standards, I have a really restricted diet. I can't do sugar, alcohol, dairy, legumes, sweet tasting fruits or vegetables. So there goes, Thanksgiving meal, except I'm going to have turkey. No, there's lots of stuff to eat. But anyway, some friends invited us for dinner in a few weeks. They said, we've got this wonderful Thanksgiving. I got Thanksgiving on the brain. Wonderful Mexican menu. I think they were doing enchiladas. No, rellenos and margaritas. And I'm going, oh, I love that food. And it's not in my plan right now. And I hemmed and hawed, and I said, okay, I'm just going to blow off the plan for the day and enjoy it and then get back on the plan. Woke up the next morning and I decided, no, I need to tell them I have a limited diet. And I told them, and they said, oh, well, we'll be glad to adjust with you. Tell us what you can eat. And I told them. And then she said, oh, well, we could do this. And I said, yeah, but cheese is dairy. Oh, yeah. I said, and butter is too. And they came up with a whole new menu. And so they like challenges. And with the foods I can eat, it was challenging them to come up with a menu they'd all like. So I was lucky. I suspect, and then she said, when I was pregnant, that sounds like exactly the same diet I had. So I'm familiar with how to do this. So we're afraid to be rejected and that we're going to stir up trouble, but maybe it's going to be a relief. Maybe people are offering foods because that it's expected. So they have expectations of what we want.
Yeah, I'm reminded of a thing called the Abilene paradox, which was a story originally written about by a management consultant. What was his name? Management expert Jerry Harvey. Told of a family, sitting around outside in Texas, and they were all miserable, and it's hot and it's dry and it's dusty. And finally the patriarch says, well, why don't we all go to Abilene? So they all get in the car, which I think this is like in the 50s. It wasn't air conditioned. The weather's still dry. It's dusty. It's a miserable, sweaty trip to Abilene. And they go to Abilene, and then they come back, and they're all sitting around the house afterwards. And someone says, well, that was a great trip, wasn't it? And finally someone decides to be honest and go, no, I really would have rather stay here. And then they all chime in. They all would have rather stayed there. The only reason they went to Abilene was everyone thought everyone else wanted to go to Abilene. And so once you know this Abilene paradox, I worked for a company that introduced this one time as part of management training, and introduced a culture of, we'd be working on something and someone would have the ability to stop and say, are we going to Abilene here? Meaning, are we all doing what we all think everyone else wants? And nobody's, we're doing something nobody wants to do and everybody thinks everybody else wants to do. And if you can develop that mentality around the Abilene paradox, a lot of times that can help open the communication lines to so everybody. It's on Wikipedia. If you Google Abilene paradox, there's a nice article about it on Wikipedia. And it's a nice thing to share with the family as you're trying to open the lines of communication and go, look, I know a lot of times we're all doing stuff that we think everybody else wants to do, and deep down nobody really wants to do it. We're all just trying to please each other. And so if you can realize that's going on and talk about it, it makes it a little bit easier to open the communications. And maybe grandma says, yeah, you know what, everybody coming to my house and eating the food that I want to eat is really important to me. And then you go, okay, well, are we going to accommodate grandma or not? But yeah, but it may be that grandma's over there slaving in the kitchen going, geez, I wish they'd just let me order it from Cracker Barrel, and everybody else is going, gee, I wish we could just order something out, and then we wouldn't have to do all of this work. So I think there's, a lot of stress can be avoided if we can develop the means to have honest conversations about what we really want, which I admit can be really hard to do. But I do find that Abilene paradox is a good starting point for introducing the discussion around, are we all going to Abilene here? And, if we're not, fine, we have real issues to work out. But if we are, it's like, whoa, let's solve this problem.
Well, and Don, I think it kind of boils down to, are you willing to take control of your life? And what are you willing to do to take control of your life?
Mm-hmm.
So, Corey, I'll put you on the spot. Are you willing to take a stand and or to say, hey, mom and dad, or whatever you call your in-laws, why don't we have a Christmas brunch at our house just to shake things up? Or let's go to Cracker Barrel. or whatever. I mean, are either one of you willing to do something like that, to start different traditions, to doing what you want to do?
I mean, I think it's a good point and something to think about. I think the bigger, it goes bigger than just, to like mom and dad. It's like an entire family kind of get together where you can't change everybody's schedule, and if you don't end up coming, that kind of maybe puts bad light on you, and so it's kind of one of those balancing acts.
Well, and I guess I'm not, so maybe it's not changing their routine. Maybe it's adding another one.
Mhm.
Or maybe changing
And
up a
maybe
piece
you
of it,
could,
but not everything. Or
right, and alternate. I mean, my siblings would do this. They'd alternate the different holidays with which, where they went. So that's one way of taking control. I'm not coming to your house this year. I'm going to go to my mom's, or we're going to stay home and do our own thing. I mean,
Mhm.
that's a reasonable option.
We have talked about that too. So
Yeah. And I think it tends to go that way as couples start having kids or kids start leaving home. When the kids can come back for the holidays, then that's a reason to stay home and be with them, because you haven't seen them evidently
mhm,
for a while. So,
right.
um, let me see what I'm looking at my notes here. What emotions are behind holiday survival, thriving, suffering, whatever you want to look at? So what are the emotions around holidays that would benefit by looking at them, addressing them?
so, I think as I think about all of the emotions that run rampant through the holidays, I think they, as do most things that when I sit down and evaluate it, often come back to a root cause in fear. That, we're afraid of how
Uh,
other people are going to perceive our reaction. If I want to make a suggestion to change the tradition, I'm driven in large part by fear of how everybody's going to respond to that. Um,
yeah.
if I can't make it, there's the fear of, how are people going to respond to that? Um, the fear of, what if I don't have as big a Christmas as the family wants? What if we don't buy as expensive gifts as we traditionally do? A lot of that really kind of loops back into that root, I believe that root cause of fear, saying, I'm afraid to make a change because I don't know how things are going to be affected by that change.
And Don, I'm kind of on the opposite side. I've always loved Christmas, especially, well, I'll say Christmas. I like all holidays, any excuse for a party. Um, Mom and dad would stay up for long hours putting our Christmas gifts together and putting them under the tree and all that. And I was always up at like 5 o'clock. Ooh, let's go open the gifts now. And mom and dad finally came up with the rule. We're going to open one gift on Christmas Eve, and you can look at your stockings whenever you want, but don't come into our bedroom till 7. So I was first one up, and of course the light went on, which woke everybody else up, and pouring through the stockings, having a good time. As my siblings started coming home for Christmas, I still wanted to get them up at 5 o'clock to open the stockings. They didn't enjoy it. So I suffer from too much excitement that others aren't particularly connected to.
I
um,
think
I
I have an emotion.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
So the other one that I was thinking of is maybe more like reflected back at yourself rather than kind of like the guilt, like Don was saying, of being afraid how other people are going to think. Is for me, like one that I've kind of felt lately is, I don't know if it's sadness or disappointment or how I would characterize it, but we tend to try to do what you were saying, where you alternate who's going where for what holiday, make sure you're kind of switching things up. And then COVID happened, and now we have high prices, and so we haven't been able to travel to my family for a holiday, be it Thanksgiving or Christmas, in years. And so that just kind of makes,
Wow.
me feel bad, because it's like, well, I want to see my family too. Well, all we do is see this side of the family. It'd be nice to celebrate with the other side every once in a while.
Right, right. That's a rough one.
Yeah.
Well, and I think joy should be a big part of any celebration, any holiday. And what you're describing is, it sounds like you're managing it well, but I think it sucks some of the joy out of the holiday
Mhm.
for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that.
Okay. So we've talked about a couple things, and I think we'll circle back and summarize and keep bringing up points, because I think we're kind of hopping all over the place, which hopefully it'll be an interesting conversation that way. But part of what I wonder is, how can you make the holidays yours? With how you decorate or don't, the kind of food you have, when you have the food, how you have the food. My first husband and I had a cabin outside of Boulder up in the mountains, and it was heated with a wood burning stove. And I knew when the turkey was ready, because we'd go up there for Thanksgiving, and I knew when the turkey was ready because I was naked. And as we ate, it was getting cold because I didn't have to keep the stove stoked. And so I was getting dressed again. That probably is not an appropriate story to tell in public, but it tickled me. It's like, what a way to know. And that was one way to make Thanksgiving mine. Nobody wanted to join us. I don't understand.
Yeah, I was
So
just thinking about
can't,
that traditions. A little side story. When I was growing up, whenever our family had pizza, it was always pepperoni. And it never occurred to me otherwise, right? That's just what we always did. If we said pizza, we meant a pepperoni pizza. Well, I went off to college and, went out with a bunch of friends to the pizza place, and they go, "What kind of pizza do you want?" And I was like, "What do you mean? You can get something besides pepperoni?" And it was a whole awakening for me in college. They have things you can put on pizza besides pepperoni. And I was just thinking that kind of the same thing happens in our family, traditions. My family had a whole bunch of traditions growing up that we did year after year after year after year. And then when we got married, I just kind of assumed we would do those traditions. And my wife was like, "Why do we have to do those? Why can't we just do something else?" And, it's taken us about 33 years of marriage for me to go, huh, what a really good idea. Who says it has to be the way it's always been? What if instead of having people over for Thanksgiving, we got in the motorhome and went to a state park and cooked a trash can turkey? What if we just did something different?
Why would you cook a trash can turkey?
Oh, they're great.
Trash cans are gross. Trash
No,
cans are gross.
you have to buy a brand new one for trash can turkey. Don't reuse an old one. Don't reuse an old one.
Oh, okay.
And make sure you use a metal one too. The plastic ones don't work good.
But wooden ones wouldn't work either. Okay.
No. Now I'm at the point where I am just like, why are we stuck in old traditions, and why don't we try something new? And we did that at my mom's last year. We've always had this real elaborate Christmas thing, and we go, what if we throw all that out? We're going to get up, we're going to do a small gift exchange, we're going to get in the car and drive over to the local national park, and we're going to spend the day touring the park. And we did, and it was wonderful, and everybody had a great time. And it was a lot more fun than the traditional spending all day eating and washing dishes. So, there's definitely some freedom that comes with analyzing your traditions and saying, why am I doing this? Is it really bringing me joy, or would I be just as happy or happier to try something different? And so, kind of having a more open mindset, a more curious mindset of what options are out there, can be really, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Enlivening. Can be really fun.
Enlivening. I like that.
Yeah. To do something, to say, hey, yeah, I've got these traditions, but what would happen if I did something different?
Yeah. When we moved over here to Ridgeway, we were living in this yurt, 314 round feet. I didn't have an oven to cook even a chicken in, much less a turkey. And I could cook one turkey pot pie at a time. So I suggested to our friends who moved here about the same time, let's go out to eat. And that was well, I've only cooked a Thanksgiving dinner here once, and I don't remember the reason for that. It's fun, but it's a lot of work. And I enjoy going out to the restaurants. So that was a tradition we started over here. It was fun, which is similar. I mean, we're not going to go to a park and wander around at Thanksgiving. It's usually too cold and maybe snowy too. But going to a restaurant is a nice change of scenery and pace and to clean up. The drawback, no leftovers, and leftovers are great.
And the advantage is you don't have 7 years worth of leftovers in the freezer when the day's done. Yeah, another thing I just remembered was one year when we were dating, I went over to my wife's for Easter, my now wife's, and after Easter dinner, we went out for a walk and we went down to a little park near her, and there was a family there that was eating at a picnic table, and they were having Kentucky Fried Chicken. And my wife was just horrified at the thought of having Kentucky Fried Chicken for Easter dinner. I mean, it's just like, that's not what you do, right? And we've had many a laugh since then talking about that. Actually sounds pretty good, Let's do that.
Yeah. So how much is having an open mind part of this conversation we're having? Can you thrive or survive or whatever with an open mindset? Well, is that part of the solution to consider other possibilities, other ways?
I definitely think so. I mean, I think one thing is there's two ways to approach with an open mind. One is, hey, let's look at everything we're doing and say, do we need to do it that way? Are we open to doing something different? So we can change traditions, we can do modify traditions, we throw out traditions, whatever. And then in those places where we're kind of stuck, because the family's like, no, this is how we do it, and we're going to do it this way. If you have the open mind of saying, well, let's just see how everybody reacts as we go into this, are we going to have the annual whatever argument over Thanksgiving dinner, or what if I popped up a different subject before that came up and we went off on a tangent and didn't get around to it, what would happen? And so I think how you react to the situation will vary with an open mind as well, instead of just saying, oh, we're at this point, I'm going to get sucked into these pressures. If you said, well, what if I didn't get sucked into those pressures? What if I found a different way to respond to that?
Yeah. Corey, I'm real curious. What was your favorite holiday as a kid? And is it something you would want to model after to create a holiday for you and your wife?
I mean, mine was Christmas. I think like a lot of people's, mine was Christmas. Yeah, I mean, I think so. I think I liked a lot of the traditions. I think the biggest thing, is like my wife and I think about having kids of our own and starting our own family is mostly just trying to have some traditions where we get to see people, get like, our future kids to see their grandparents and their cousins and all that. But without a lot of the hustle and bustle that I hear from other people I know who have little kids, where they spend all day in the car to go spend a half hour over at grandma and grandpa's house and then drive 3 hours to get to, Aunt so-and-so's house and then drive another 2 hours. And so they're on the road from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. And they spent 80% of it in the car. So that, I know neither my wife nor I want that. But, some of the other
that's
stuff,
wise.
Yeah. So
We
there's
had
some
a
stuff.
tradition growing up that the week before Christmas, we would visit one set of grandparents, or the weekend before Christmas, we'd visit one set of grandparents. And the weekend after Christmas, we would visit the other set of grandparents. And then we would be home for Christmas. And it just worked out that, one of my grandparents was like, the minute Christmas Day is gone, I'm out of the Christmas mood. We're done. I don't want anything to do with Christmas anymore. So we saw them the week before. But the other side had a lot of family that would work right up until Christmas Day. And then they would have, the company would have off between Christmas and New Year's. And so for them, it was wonderful to have that celebration after Christmas, because it was a lot less pressure than trying to do things on Christmas. And it just, it worked out really well that we could do that with the two sets of families. But, avoided what Corey's talking about there of you spend the entire holiday in the car shuffling around so you can spend 30 minutes with people, you know.
Mhm.
Right. So Corey, what was your one favorite part of Christmas that you would want to incorporate, maybe into Christmas, but maybe a concept that you could incorporate into other holidays?
I mean, for me, it was the simple stuff. It was just spending time with nuclear family, just like Christmas
Yeah.
morning for me was like my favorite time, like I was just
Uh,
like you, up at 5 o'clock, ready to open stockings, and then waiting patiently to be able to go open the rest of the stuff. And, the rest of the day was fun, going to see grandparents and, we did stuff on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, all of which was fun. My favorite part was just the simple,
that morning.
just family time.
Oh, I like your word simple. Maybe that's what we're missing.
Mhm.
We've lost the simplicity.
Yeah.
I think in a lot of cases that's
Right.
true. We just tend to overcomplicate things. I was thinking our family has done a huge change in gift giving because Christmas used to be a huge gift giving thing. And over the last few years, we've just come to realize, season of life, we're going out, spending more and more money trying to find that perfect gift for somebody who essentially has everything and doesn't really need
Yeah.
or want something else, and so once we realize that, it's like, hey, you know what, it's the thought that counts. We could give each other a piece of paper that said Merry Christmas on it and be just as happy. And once we made that realization, it was like, oh well, that's cool. That kind of changes how things operate. So reduce a lot of stress and made for new traditions, I guess.
Mhm.
My family got big enough with, starting with 5 kids and then having 5 spousal units, and then they started having kids. And so we decided to pull a name out of a hat and only buy one Christmas gift instead of trying to buy 20, 25 gifts. And it worked well, except one of my in-laws would still buy gifts for her favorite family parts. She'd buy the one, but she'd still buy others and then grumble later about how much money she spent. And like, whatever, your heart was in the right place.
Yeah, we had one
Some
side of the
habits are
family that
hard.
was really large, and we would do that, draw the name and give to one person.
Yeah,
And we had a
it
lot of
takes
fun with that.
good. Yeah.
Still a family likes to laugh about the time I drew my cousin's name, his grown-up cousin, and mom asked me what I wanted to get him, and I said pajamas, because the only thing I know he likes to do is sleep. And because it's like every time we'd go over to visit him, we woke him up because he was taking a nap. And so we still
That's
laugh
good.
about that. Or one of the younger kids who had just gotten to like out of toddler stage, and somebody had his name and they got the great idea. They got him a nice present, but they wrapped it up in Pampers boxes. And so, he took the paper off and there was Pampers box, and he just like, chucked it aside and was ready to go on. And it took a lot of work to get him to actually open the present and see what was inside. So, the little things have created a lot of laughs over the years, a lot of fond memories.
That's fun. So part of that simplicity that Corey brought up is maybe we can do less during the holidays. Choose our favorite things, the highlights, the things that seem important to us. Maybe, and that may change every year, but I think that could help de-stress holidays.
I think that's a pretty crucial step to make, and it can be very hard to make,
Mhm.
depending on what your family traditions are. But as we have found, as we've gotten older, simplifying has brought more joy rather than less, because it's not all focused around getting up to the point, but it's just enjoying the process of going through. So I think that stepping back and saying, what are we doing? The open mind thing again, can we just simplify this and have just as much fun with a simpler thing than we would if
Stepping back is a really good idea.
Mhm.
Take that pause that I hear is in between stimulus and action. There's the pause, and
Mhm.
maybe that's the same as step back.
yeah, just step back and take a wider view and go,
Yeah.
if I'm not in the noise, if I step out above the noise and look into it, what do I see and how could I make changes?
I think, Kit, you asked two traditions that I would pass on. One that wasn't around so much when I was little, but one that kind of became a thing, and I alluded to it a little bit earlier, is the tradition of no expectations, right? So
I
of your
love that.
family, moving forward, it's like, okay, well, obviously, I'd love to see you. I'd love it if you could be here. If you can't, no worries. If you can't afford a present, no worries. Like if you want to spend the day by yourself, no worries. The invitation is extended, but there's no guilt associated with it. And that, I think, for everybody would alleviate a lot of that stress.
Any
Oh,
way you
wonderful.
want to have the holiday, make it yours.
Right.
Cool. So that's something you'll pass on to your future family.
Yeah.
Cool. I mentioned the corner bell ringers a little while ago. What do you guys think about doing more service during the holidays? And what would it look like to you?
I like the idea. I really think that a lot of the joy in life comes from being of service. I think the key to having a successful business is taking it from a mindset of service. How am I serving my customers? What problems are my customers having, and how can I solve those problems, which is type of service. So I think that's a very natural extension to look at how can we do service, with the caveat that you don't want to do it with a sense of guilt. Yeah, it's easy to get the guilt on. Well, what we should be doing is standing on the street corner
Yeah.
volunteering for Salvation Army. Well, not necessarily, right? You got to find
That's what the
your
Salvation. Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to find your service thing that is good for you. But I think I've said for years and years and years and years, life is lived best when it's lived outside of yourself. So when you focus on others and you're doing things for other people, life is much more enjoyable than when everything is centered on me, 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 me. How do I get my way? Why are people doing things I don't want? How can I control other people? Being outside of yourself and looking at others is much better. So I think, yeah, if you can incorporate a service element into that and take that, again, mindset that, hey, what can I do for other people to make their time more enjoyable, can in turn reflect back and make your time more enjoyable.
Well, let's talk about some of the things people could do. I mean, I know that at an early age, my parents' church would gather food boxes. I think the whole church would bring food, and I know my mom was one of the people who would distribute it to the needy, people in the church or people they didn't know. I don't know how they found out about who else needed food, but we would deliver those food boxes. Uray County, where I live, has a delightful program where they have printed Christmas ornaments on disc. Well, they print them and somebody's cutting the discs out and it looks like ornaments. They give them to families who are on the public service rosters. I don't know if I've said that right, but and the family tells what they color the ornaments to make them delightful, and then they say, I want these things. I want a new pair of shoes. I want this toy. I want that book. Mom will say, I need some new sheets or a vacuum. And then these ornaments you don't know who you're buying for. It's anonymous. And you can go to a couple of different banks in the library maybe and look. They have a cute little Christmas tree that these ornaments are hanging on, and you can pick the one you want and go buy it and take it back. Forget where we take it, but we drop it off somewhere. And then volunteers in the county distribute you, and it usually is first responders, law enforcement, EMTs, firefighters, etc. Will take it to those families. And it's great fun. Of course, we get together and just put it all together, and there's food as well as the gifts. We used to carol, especially at nursing homes. That's a service, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see, you wouldn't do it in my neighborhood, but of course my neighborhood's not a nursing home, but
I think one of the greatest ways you can be of service to others is what Corey
good.
was saying, extend the invitation. I'd love to have you here for Christmas, but if you can't make it, or if you don't want to make it, or you have other plans or whatever, that's okay. you know, and to communicate that openness of just, we would love to have you, but there's no guilt in this invitation, or no guilt intended in this invitation. That is a huge service to other
Good point.
people when
Good
you
point.
extend that invitation.
So you're talking about inviting family or friends or strangers, you know, the new grad student in town, invite them over. Maybe they don't have anybody to have a holiday meal with.
One of my professors used to do just that. He would invite all of the members of his lab group, especially the international students who didn't have family in town, over for holiday dinners.
Love it. And they really like the Thanksgiving because they don't get this Thanksgiving thing.
Right.
It's good food though. I like it. Yeah. And you hear of families where the kids will give one of their toys to another kid, or to the Salvation. They give their toys away because they're taught other people need toys too. And you've got a lot.
Yep. And
Maybe we
again, I
adults
think it's
could do
important
that.
to do that and to teach as a spirit of giving, not as a thing of guilt.
Right.
Right. If the kid's
But-
really attached to a toy and doesn't want to give it, that's okay too.
But maybe they can
know,
find a different toy.
Or maybe find a different one, or buy something
Right,
to give, or,
right.
you know, ways around it. But, you know, again, I think to focus on doing it from a place of joy rather than a place of guilt makes a big difference
obligation.
in-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
and, you know,
but how many
how
adults-
you feel about doing it.
How many adults keep up that practice or have that practice? That maybe there's another thing. Give away something that you don't use much, don't need. You've outgrown it. The color's not yours anymore.
Another thing that
That
we
could be
like to
good.
do that's maybe kind of related, because I've done the Christmas tree thing too, you were talking about, where you take the ornament and you buy a
Good.
present. We also like to try to find just like basic, it's kind of like the canned food drive, but you buy a family their Thanksgiving turkey, and it's just a fund, and it's just anonymous, and you know, buy them their turkey, and then someone who can't afford it, you know that they have a good meal.
I love that. That's wonderful. Yeah. All right. What else? Let me look at my list here. You know, so one thing, I just came across a note that said, take breaks, meditate. In other words, take care of yourself in whatever way that means. Take more walks, sleep well, eat well. And I don't mean abundantly, I mean healthy. And keep moving every day, because sometimes we get so caught up that we don't move enough. We don't take care of ourselves. We burn the candle too low.
Yeah. And it's, you know, again, it's kind of funny because you go, well, what can we do to have a better time? The answer is always better self-care, right? Eat right, sleep right, get exercise. That'll solve a whole lot of issues, whether you're talking about the holidays or depression or illnesses caused by
Everything.
being too sedentary or whatever, right? And then in the holidays, it gets really interesting because that becomes one more pressure on us. You know, oh, I need to eat right, but we're having all of these feasts, you know, starting with the Halloween candy and going through Valentine's candy. You know, and so there's again that playing with it, I think, and the curiosity that comes with it of how do I maintain my health without feeling like I'm depriving myself or putting myself under pressure or guilt to, you know, oh, well, I can't have the pecan pie on Thanksgiving because I have to watch my eating. And, you know, how can you have fun with it? How can you make it where you can enjoy the meals, but also still be keeping an eye on how am I going to stay healthy mentally, physically, emotionally through this process?
And I think some of it is if you have a habit, if you make it a healthy life, your habit, your lifestyle, where you are working on good sleep, good diet, good movement, and I'm a firm believer of meditation, because the science shows what valuable things it does for your brain. I think then when these holidays come around, be it 4th of July or Thanksgiving, Christmas, and we're ignoring the other religions' holidays. I guess we're showing our Christian-centric upbringings. But it's a habit that you can more easily follow and subscribe to. So it theoretically then wouldn't add to your stress because it's just what you do. Does getting dressed stress you out? I mean, it takes time. Let's just go run around naked. No. We get dressed every day, and that's just part of our routine, as well as brushing our teeth and our hair and other
But
things.
you have to wear the right thing to the family get-togethers.
I wear the same thing all the time, not literally the same thing. I have a set wardrobe, and that's what they get. You can tell what my style is.
Right. And, you know, and you're right. With the healthy eating, if you can develop that habit, you're in great shape. You know, I've joked with you sometimes about do all things in moderation, including moderation. And there's a little bit of truth to that. You know, if you really are consistently eating, exercising, sleeping, and then you get to Thanksgiving and you pig out for a day, it's not really going to make that much difference in the long term. But if you're pigging out every day and you tack on Thanksgiving, you know, you've got a long-term failure process set up. So,
right.
Well, and it could even be said, it could be said that pigging out on Thanksgiving Day would be taking care of your mental health, even though you're not doing your physical health that day, because you're giving yourself that release and that good time. Right.
Right. And then again, we're back to your mindset and how you approach it is exactly that. Okay. I pigged out because I wanted to, because it was fun with the family and it's great for mental health. And I'm not going to sit here and feel guilty about it. You know, I'm going to move on.
Well, and just to be contrarian, which is my second nature, I'll suggest that sticking with your health plan is better for you. That, I mean, is it okay if you've got a diet for health reasons, religious reasons, whatever, and you cheat on it? Is that okay? I mean, is it okay to cheat on your spouse? Just once a year. So there's a challenge for you. And
you know, and I'm going to be
yours,
contrarian and say, if you're depending on why the health diet is, right? I mean, if it's a serious health condition and you really got to watch things, that's one thing. But if you're working on a long-term healthy mindset and that prevents you from having fun along the way, I think that becomes a problem. So I'm going to stick to my guns and say, it's okay not to eat Brussels sprouts on Thanksgiving. You know, it's okay
but
to
you
eat
have
a
to
little
have
too
them
much
Christmas.
turkey. You know, and you know, the problem becomes when it's every single day, there's an excuse not to be following the plan. But I'm perfectly fine with, you know, a planned deviation from the norm. And
I'll challenge you right back. If not having fun happens because you're not eating, I'll be blunt and say crap food. Oh, it tastes good, but doesn't mean it's good for you. And if that keeps you from having fun, you don't have a good relationship with your food and you're not in charge of your life. All right. I'm waiting for the challenge, Don.
Yeah. And I think, you know, if the whole family gets together and has turkey and dressing and cranberry sauce and you come in with your pre-made meal because this is what you eat.
No, I'm going to have the turkey and I'm going to have the green vegetable. Yeah, the cranberries got too much sugar. Love cranberry sauce. Love pecan pie and pumpkin pie. I will find the foods I can eat and I'll enjoy those. And when everybody else is toasting with whatever alcohol they have, I will put my water in a champagne glass and toast right along with them. And I'm having fun.
I'll do me. I'm having the pecan pie.
I'm living to 150. Are you?
I don't know that I want to.
Oh, it's going to be so much fun.
I will say, I started to say this earlier. We were talking about what does longevity mean? My view of longevity is you live until you stop living.
Yes, you don't want to live past your health span. That's for sure.
Right. When you stop living,
and I think
you want to stop living.
Yeah. See, I'm going to be friends with Corey's kids. We'll have to arrange meeting them, and they'll be my buddies when I'm 150. They're going to be a little older too, but it'll be fun. So, all right, we've gotten way off track. Maybe this is what the topic is.
I honestly think it is. I think a lot of what we're dealing with on thriving through the holidays has to do with how we approach the holidays and how we want to live it.
Yeah.
And making the determination, I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to roll with the punches. That might mean making some deviations from my norm, or it might not, because those deviations might set you up for bigger failure. But just going in with that attitude of I intend to thrive, and I'm going to look for ways to thrive, and I'm going to maintain a spirit of gratitude, and I'm going to be thankful for the things that are going right and focus on those rather than, focusing on all of the stressors and guilt and opportunities for things to go bad. I'm just, I'm going to have fun. I'm going to be grateful, and I'm going to look for ways to make that happen.
Excellent. And it is all about finding joy in what you have.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, all right. I think we're pretty close to top of the hour. We started a little late, but that's okay. Anything else you guys want to add? Anybody want to challenge me on something that's fun? Oh, I've scared Corey. He didn't want to challenge me.
Nothing on my end.
Okay. Don, anything else you want to add?
No, I think I just wound up and got going on my soapbox, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Don't drop any food on the soapbox. It'll get bubbly.
Have fun, be grateful, look for ways to live outside yourself and enjoy doing it, and thrive through the holidays.
Sounds like a great ending. So do you have something you want to give to people? Speaking of service and gift giving or giving?
Sure. I always have my virtual coffee with Don, because I just love getting to know people better. So just go to my website. There's virtual coffee with Don, and it's a 30-minute chance to talk over coffee or the beverage of your choice. It's virtual, so you do your thing, I'll do mine. And it's not a sales thing. If we decide in the course of conversation, hey, it might make sense to work with each other, we'll set up a separate meeting and explore that. But it's really just a chance to get to know each other better.
Cool.
So I offer that. And then I also, I know what you have up your sleeve, and I'm going to recommend that people do what you're about to offer.
So I have 2 workshops lined up through the middle of December. And then I'll continue on a monthly basis next year. One is a workshop called Energize Me. And by the way, I think these workshops can really help you learn to thrive through the holidays, not just survive, but really thrive, and for all the days after. So the first one is called Energize Me. I share 7 tips that I use to keep my energy strong. And the other one is called Face It to Change It. It's a 2-hour workshop. The Energize Me is 1 hour, to help you learn to face the uncertainty and fear and stress and anxiety that life likes to dish up. So there we have it.
I think both of those are great. And especially, I recommend everyone do the Face It to Change It.
Thanks, Don.
That's just the start of figuring out how we get out of the fear trap. And
boy, it is a trap.
Make life a lot more enjoyable. So I highly recommend that one.
And that one, I teach I'll say proprietary tools, a tool I created from my life's experiences,
which we talked about last month. So go watch the replay.
Good point. We did. So Don, do you want to say goodbye to these lovely people?
I'll say goodbye.
Well, I'm Kit Cassingham, a longevity coach with Live in Focused Energy, and I love working with people who want to live with intention. And I like helping people make their lives better. And when you argue for your limitations, they're yours. So I'll kind of teach you how to not argue for your limitations as we work along together. And as you can see, I'm passionate about living a good life as long as you're intended to live it. So with that, and next month, hold on. Next month, we're talking about your why, your clarity, your purpose, whatever. How to get fulfilled with your job in life by knowing your why and your purpose, your passion. It'll be fun.
That'll be a lot of fun.
All
All right.
right. Thanks for
See you
coming,
next month.
Corey.
Of
Thanks,
See you
course.
guys
Corey.
later.
Thanks,
Good
kid.
to see
See
you
you later.
both. See you next time.
Bye.
See ya.